Hello, George.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's a great morning.
It's a great morning. Glad to be with you guys today. This is our third episode of this Paramount series. We're having a dialogue, and we're looking forward to all the ways this is going to take us, and may I say, provoke us, each of us.
That's going to be a good word for us all the way through.
I think so.
We're probably going to hear it 100 times or more.
I think so, too. And we want to invite you guys into that. One of the thoughts we just discussed is we want to invite you to begin journaling, or however you want to do it, ways in which you are experiencing being provoked.
Like becoming discomfortable or uncomfortable.
Right, or challenged.
Challenged.
Spurred, to use that word we used from Hebrews chapter 10. Whether it's your own personal life, I mean, obviously that's what we mostly want us to get at here, is our own formation. But also, as we've talked about, Jesus is also provoking the culture, and often in his day, the religious culture. He's provoking it. And so how might he be provoking, whether it's our culture in general, or it's in the church culture in which we are engaged, or in the religious culture in general? So just begin working with that.
Jesus' audience is mainly people who had faith in God.
That's right.
He's not mainly talking to the Romans. And the pagans.
That's right.
He's talking to people who are inside this belief system that saw God as sovereign and the one who created them and all of that. And he's bringing some correctives to their understanding. And the way he would do that is to maybe shock them into a different way of thinking.
That's right.
We call that repentance.
And he's bringing that provocation in the form of stories. And there's a reason for that. He's bringing them to us in a way that we can receive and let them work with us. Instead of just cramming statements into our heads. That we might receive, but really don't flesh out much in our life. He's bringing it to us in a way that we have to do the work so that we can internalize it.
We really want to encourage you, as Jim did just a minute ago, like, keep asking the question, what is this provoking in me? What is it challenging me? How is it challenging me to think differently, to act differently? To look, to see things differently than I have been, because that's how they are designed to work.
That's right. It's precisely what we believe Jesus was doing when he's doing it. So let them. So today we're going to start, we're actually going to jump into a few parables, kind of a central collection with a common theme. We think the theme that these parables are going to bring to bear are really important, and in some ways a central orientation. Not necessarily the only one. We know the parables are about the kingdom, but there's something Jesus is trying to get at that we believe these parables really do a good job. So we're going to let you, George, do some reading, some retelling of these parables, and then we'll have a dialogue about it. So, take it.
What I wanted to do mainly is to point out that in Luke 15, which is a set of 3 parables, but they're really telling the same story. Jesus thought that this story is universal enough and big enough to encompass everything that he told it in 3 parables.
Three different ways.
3 different ways.
So.
And we don't want to get lost in the details, why this and not that, although we could ask those questions. But there is a common thread all the way through these 3 parables that are telling the same story, and that is the story of lostness.
Lostness.
Apparently, Jesus saw things around him that people were lost. People inside the Jewish faith of his day as people who have lost something, who are lost, and needed to discover new ways of relating and thinking about God, right? So, and he says it in 3 parables. I just want to read the parts that emphasize this idea of lostness.
Okay.
And then we can dialogue about this lostness.
I remember a good mentor saying once, to be lost means you're not where you're supposed to be.
Yes, yeah. And that's exactly a definition of being lost.
Yeah.
You're not where you're supposed to be. You're disconnected. You're separated from where home is, where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of theological baggage about lostness, and I'm not necessarily implying that our baggage is bad or wrong. It's just that if we will think about lostness in terms of we're not home.
Yeah.
We're not where we were designed to be.
Yeah. It's not just a term that we use for those sinners that are going to hell. They're lost. There's a legitimate way of speaking about that.
Right.
But this kind of lostness is more pandemic. It spans all of us in creation.
All right, now you've provoked me.
I provoked you.
Yeah.
It's all of us.
All right.
There's a lostness to the way we are, inside or outside.
All right, bring it. Let's hear it.
So it begins with, now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming to hear him. So that's one category of people that Luke is trying to say there's lostness here.
Okay.
Right? There's lostness in these. They're tax collectors, which implied maybe an unfair, unjust way of collecting funds so that they can enrich themselves.
Okay.
So there's a lostness here. And obviously the sinners, there's a lostness there. They are separated from God.
Yeah.
But there's also another group of people, but the Pharisees and the experts in the law were complaining. So 2 groups of people that I believe Jesus saw as lost as the other. There's a lostness there. And they were complaining, and their complaint indicates their lostness.
I'm chuckling, George, because I think about, groups that get at odds with each other.
Yeah.
And they're just complaining about the other group.
That's right.
Or 2 friends who are at odds. They're just complaining about the other one, and they're...
I've got it right, you got it wrong, and that settles it.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of what we want to do. And Jesus is looking at both of them and saying, one group is just as lost as the other.
Yeah.
It just looks differently.
And the way they were lost is that they just couldn't see, wouldn't see, refused to believe that God could be one of us and show us the way.
Yeah.
And he said, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. So the way they were lost is that they couldn't see that you could actually go to the sinners and tax collectors, have a dialogue with them, open up the Word of God to them, open up the kingdom and make that available to them. They wanted an exclusive kind of a thing, and they were found, and they thought that that's home for them, and everybody outside of that is not welcome.
Wow.
And Jesus is changing the conversation.
Okay.
You're as lost as well.
Others.
Yeah.
Oh,
so he tells the parable of the shepherd who had 100 sheep. Which one of you, he says, if he has 100 sheep and loses one of them, would not leave the 99 in the open pasture and go look for the one that is lost until he finds it. So the word is just part of this parable, lost, lost, lost. And then he tells another parable, and again, the lostness theme is there. Or what woman, if she had 10 silver coins and loses one of them, does not light her lamp, etc., and rejoice with me when she finds it? She says, I have found the coin that I had lost. Right? So this language of lostness is very, very common in these two parables, as it is in the third one. In the third one, it shows up with the lost son, and this is a reflection. The father, when his son returns, he wants to put a theological understanding of what had happened. And the way he describes that, this was a son who was in the fold. He leaves the fold and he returns to the fold. And the description is, because this son of mine was dead and is alive again, he was lost and is found. So they began to rejoice. Right? And at the very end, in the last verse, he makes that case again. It was appropriate to celebrate and to be glad, for your brother was dead. Right? The first time is the son of mine was lost. The son of mine is lost, and now it's your brother. There's something different here that Jesus is conveying to the scribes and to the Pharisees. These are your brothers. They're lost. What are you doing about it?
Wow.
Anyway, that gets into that. And he said, your brother was dead and is alive, was lost, and is found.
Okay.
So lostness is the theme of this story in three parables, or this parable in three stories.
George, do you make anything? I mean, if he's telling, I guess we're assuming he's telling these consecutively, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Do you make anything with the numbers? I don't know if we should. Like
99, 100, and then 10, and then
it
2.
Seems like it's funneling. Is there anything to that, or is that immaterial to?
I mean, it's a very interesting question. If you have 100 sheep, and you looked at them, they are inside the fold. Would you be able to tell that there's one missing?
That's a good question. My first thought is no, probably not.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
unless you're doing what?
Shepherding, or with them all the time.
Unless you're counting them on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right?
Yeah.
To make sure that they are there.
Yeah, unless I know there's the possibility kind of playing along with that they tend to wander.
Because sheep tend to wander.
They do. Yeah.
And this man of means, this shepherd.
Why do you say man of means?
Well, he has 100.
Oh.
Not everybody had 100. And if Jesus is telling the parable to the people around him, they would say, no, I don't associate with that. I don't own 100 sheep. So they're provoked.
Interesting.
Right? And they're provoked to know, who is this man who has 100 and loses one and actually leaves 99 and goes after them? I wouldn't do that. Because I certainly don't have 100.
Yeah, it's a 1% loss on my investment.
Yeah. And so I would think that is provoking to the people who hear him.
Interesting.
And that they're not all owners of 100.
Okay.
A fold of 100.
Yeah.
The average person may have had one.
Okay.
So, but if you had 100, would you mind losing one? What's it like to lose one? Would you even notice?
Yeah.
Right? So there's something provoking about
this.
I
never thought about it like that.
Yeah. And but this one is counting and thinks that his flock of 100 is incomplete without that other one that goes.
Yeah. You know, we get our, we're not too far away from retirement, and we get our monthly statement on our investments, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That money we've been putting back for 40 years, and like we got it yesterday for the previous month.
It's not pretty.
Lost about 3%, and this story makes sense to me. Because on the one hand, it's like, it's 3%. But then the thought comes, well, what if we lose another 3%?
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden you care about that 3%.
Yeah. Who lost this sheep?
Yeah, how did it happen? Yeah. Okay, I'm provoked.
Yeah. Whose responsibility that this sheep is lost?
Yeah. It's not the other 99.
No.
I wouldn't think.
No.
They're too worried about it, maybe.
Maybe this isn't the shepherd. Maybe he's the one managing this flock. But either way, if you are managing a flock of 100, you're a person of means.
Yeah, you don't want to go home that weekend and tell the boss that you lost one of them. Yeah.
And then you could ask the same question about the woman. Like, if I put a stack of 25 of quarters on the table, one that has 9, one that has 10 in it, and like separate them enough that they're not next to each other, would you be able to tell which one has 9, which one has 10?
I don't know.
That's not easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this woman notices she's missing one.
Yeah.
And again, it's because she is counting them.
Yeah.
But you can understand a sheep going astray because that's what sheep do.
Yeah.
They go astray.
Yeah.
How does a coin leave? The coin is not a sheep. It doesn't have a will of its own.
Yeah.
So she lost it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a daily thing that happens. And have you lost your key?
Hole in the apron. I've lost my wallet on gas pumps multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Top of the car.
Correct.
I could tell stories.
I lost 2 pairs of gloves just in the last week. One I left in someone's car.
So have I.
You lost one of these in my house.
I did. My water.
And then you were wondering, where is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lostness is a way of life for us. We lose stuff all the time.
Correct. And Jesus knew that, and he's capitalizing on this idea of lostness. And then the son, of course, you would notice if you had 2.
Yeah.
Right? And one of them turns out to be.
Yeah. Man, I hate that feeling, George, of losing stuff.
I do too.
Yeah. Keys, wallets, even if it's one I like, coffee like I did at your house the other day. I hate that feeling.
You're not the only one. There's 2 other people that left things and lost them. We were all together.
Comforting.
And then we ended up delivering all the stuff to one another afterwards.
There's a lot of lostness out there.
Yeah, lostness is a common thing. And Jesus is provoking us by helping us to think about lostness.
We lose stuff all the time.
Yeah. But,
all right.
So,
lostness.
If we're lost, where's home? How do we know when we're home?
Can you be lost in different ways? They're different.
Yeah, you can be lost in more ways than one. You can be lost and not know that you are lost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Do you know people like that?
Yeah, personally.
Well,
me
correct.
Sometimes. Yeah.
And I've been lost and didn't know it.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing right.
Yeah,
I was doing what was prescribed for me to do.
That's right.
Both as a Christian and as a non-Christian.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it.
That's right. You know, Cindy and I were driving once. We live in Kansas, open prairie, and we were trying to get to a particular place, and I was convinced, because here, when you live in the open plains, east, west, north, and south, they mean something to you. When I grew up in the mountains, they meant nothing. You couldn't tell which way was east.
Correct.
But here you can, and I was convinced I was driving west, because the place we needed to go we knew was west of us. And Cindy says, the sun was setting, and she said, if you're driving west, why are you driving away from the sun that's setting and not toward it? And I said, well, I don't care where the sun is. I'm driving west. I honestly did.
Yeah.
And she just, she rolled her eyes and said, probably, Lord help him.
Yeah.
I give up.
Yeah, yesterday I was coming out of a store, and I thought I was going one way, but I went another way, and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Until I was in part of the town where I said,
yeah.
For that time, I was lost and didn't know it.
Yeah,
I was just
that's right.
going along.
So it's very possible to be lost.
And then Carolyn says, "What are you doing?" We're the other way. It took someone to count my situation to say, you need to go back.
Yeah, it's good.
So you can be lost and not know it.
Okay.
You can be lost and you really know it.
Yeah.
You can be outside the fold of God and know that you are and know that you need help.
Yeah.
It's like the first step in AA.
The 12 steps.
The 12 steps. We admit that we are powerless and that our lives are unmanageable. That's the level of lostness.
Yeah.
That you know it and you admit it.
Yeah.
And you want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. I think we've been there in our lives multiple times.
Yeah. And then there's a middle kind of a lostness that you're lost. You want to find a way, but it has to be your way.
Oh, that's me driving away from the sunset.
Yeah, it's my way.
Insisting that
I could know where true north is or where the sun is setting.
Yeah.
Or not, but I'm not that sincere about finding the way.
Or maybe desperate.
Or desperate enough.
Yeah, maybe it's the same thing here.
Yeah. So there's an insincerity about the way I want to try to find the way.
So
I want to find the way, but not really. I want to be corrected, but not really.
Okay.
Right?
Kind of on my terms.
On my terms, I have to do it my way. I need to find my way.
Yeah.
And that way, that
has to fit within my framework.
Yeah.
Of what I think is good.
Which
right.
really means I'm not that sincere about getting reconnected with home.
Okay.
With the right way.
So now bring it to the story.
Yeah.
Stories of lostness.
Especially in the story of the prodigal sons, where the young son, the younger one, at some point he realized he was lost. But he wanted to go back. But he wanted to go back on his own terms.
How so?
Well, I'll go and tell my father, you don't need to take me back as a son. Really? Like, you really think that? Is that what you really want?
Is to be a servant.
To be a servant, not to be a son?
Yeah.
Would you be happy if you were treated like a servant? So there's some insincerity about what he really wants his father to do.
Wow.
He's finagling something here. Take me as a servant, and maybe I can earn my way back into being a son.
Yeah, so he's kind of got a plan here.
He's got a plan, and And really, it's insincere.
Mm-hmm.
All he needed to do is just go, Dad, I just messed up.
Yeah.
Would you find it in your heart
Yeah.
to be my dad? You
Yeah.
know? And then the third son, the second brother, the second son,
Yeah. The older.
man, he was lost. He was lost. And didn't even know it.
Didn't know it.
He thought he was at home, but he wasn't. He was caught up in his own finagling and maneuvering and earning his way to his father's graces.
Huh.
He just had no idea.
Yeah.
He was so totally lost.
Yeah.
So with the scribes and the Pharisees, you can see that they thought they had a monopoly on beliefs, the way to do life. You don't do this on the Sabbath, you do this. This law is forbidden for you. This law is, you can be okay. Jesus accuses them one time of, you tithe on mint and cumin, but you leave the weightier things of the law and not do those. Like look after your parents, your aging parents, right?
Yeah.
Which is more important?
Yeah.
So they were lost, and they just didn't
know it.
Didn't know it.
Lost to themselves, to each other. Yeah.
I think where we want to be lost and know it, and move towards home.
So does that happen with the younger son in the story?
He did move towards home, yes. And you know, the key point in that, when he discovered he was lost and he knew it, is when the father embraced him.
Huh.
All his lostness, and all his pretension, all his insincerity melted away in the embrace of God.
That's good. Because, that makes sense to me. And it's like, while that strategy, I'll just be your servant, might appear as noble to us.
Yeah.
As you pointed out, there is insincerity.
And in that story, what he rehearsed and practiced, he would say to his father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be your son.
Yeah.
Take me in as a servant.
Yeah.
He started that speech when he got close to his father, who was waiting for him. But he never got to say the last part. That was the insincere part.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the insincere part.
Yeah.
And his father saw through that and just embraced him.
It. Yeah.
And brought him back in.
Yeah.
You're home.
Yeah.
No more pretension.
Yeah.
No more insincerity.
Yeah.
Let my love change you.
Yeah.
You're not found. Yeah.
So Jesus is provoking.
Yeah.
What's he provoking in the stories?
Yeah.
The scribes and Pharisees are there.
Yeah.
The sinners and tax collectors are there.
Well, both are provoked.
Huh.
The tax collectors and the sinners have an embrace waiting for them. And that's going to fix it.
Huh.
The scribes and the Pharisees have an embrace waiting for them.
Huh.
And that's going to fix it.
Yeah.
The one that fixes legalism, the one that fixes sinfulness, is the same embrace of the Father.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's good in the world, in the culture, and that's good inside the church, in our culture.
That's good.
The church.
Yeah. I like what you just did there, because I'm afraid, and I've done it, so this is not an indictment. I'm included in the indictment. We don't think of ourselves as lost in the church. But we can be estranged from, we may be in the kingdom, right? I'm venting this out with you. We can be in the kingdom, but still be estranged from the way of Jesus.
Yes.
And in some ways, even the life of Jesus.
Because the false self that we live by, Jim, the persona that that we portray to other people isn't checked at the door.
Yeah.
Doesn't fully leave us.
Yeah.
Unless we come to the realization that we have that false, lost self that still needs to be found on a daily basis as we struggle in our life to do life with God.
Yeah, and if we let that has a lot of power to provoke us.
That's right.
Because that's uncomfortable, to me as someone who has entered the kingdom, to be poked in a way that says, you're lost. Maybe it's to yourself, it's probably to others. And in some ways, you're still not quite home. And
you're lost in trying to earn the love of God by doing all of this.
That's right.
You could be lost in so many other ways.
Yeah, you're not admitting this.
You're lost in condemning other people.
Yeah.
You're lost in trying to find your treasure. If you think, if I just know this, then I would have found the pearl of great price.
Yeah.
But Jesus is defying all of this way of looking at ourselves as found when we really need to find ourselves in His embrace of love.
Yeah, that's good. Different forms of self-righteousness that we construct.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth, we got to sit with that one, George. I mean, that's for us as much as it is for anyone who's listening, and may it do its work.
There may be a progression in these three lostnesses.
Okay.
For the same person. I mean, these could be developmental and stages of our own growth.
Wow.
Right? I could be lost and not know it, believing certain things. Nobody's ever told me any different.
Yeah.
But I just don't know any different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or I think I can do this my way. Thank you, God. You can take a seat. Let me drive this bus.
Yeah.
And I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
But really, I know that I don't have it in me to do.
Yeah.
And then I can be lost and know it. And I think that is the final stage. That we want to be there. We want to be lost and know it because we know the only answer is to be found in God, in His forgiving embrace.
Yeah, that's good. You can't experience that level of embrace without the awareness that you're lost.
And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Seems like Jesus says everyone is lost.
Yeah.
And God is the equalizer in that He embraces all those who are lost and come to Him.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. All right, let's sit on that one. Let's simmer cook with that.
Yeah.
It's worth it. So thank you, George. Really, really helpful. And we look forward to continuing this conversation next time.
Yeah.
And more parables, more paramount teachings of Jesus to come. All right.
Yeah. So read those parables. Ask yourself, where am I being provoked?
Yeah.
Do I see myself as lost in some ways?
Yeah.
Or am I found and everybody else is lost?
Yeah, that's right. And I think we should close by just adding the clarity. Hear what we're saying about what we're meaning about lostness. We're doing a little bit different than just categorizing everyone in one of two camps. We're not saying those two camps aren't real, but we're saying we're wanting this parable to address us where we are.
Correct.
And let it do that.
Yeah.
So, all right. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Soul Renovate podcast. Any of the scriptures or resources that we mentioned in this episode will be linked in our show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app, because it really helps us to share these conversations with more Christian leaders like you. And if you have any questions you'd like Jim and George to answer, you can email us at info@soulrenovate.us. Soul Renovate is a ministry of Christ First Counseling Center, and it exists to propel Christian leaders to abide in Christ and grow in His likeness. Soul Renovate is made possible by the generous support of people like you. If you'd like to support us, you can do that on our website, soulrenovate.us. And if you'd like to learn more about Soul Renovate, you can also do that on our website, soulrenovate.us. This podcast is produced by me, Dalton Huey. Our cover art was designed by Hannah Huey, and our music is by The Fox's Forest. Thanks again for listening. Till next time.